Hey, YouTube fans, we are here right now getting ready with my buddy here, Bruce, longtime friend, and used to be arch rivals in the front row of volleyball, but now brothers from another mother.
Yes, indeed.
And we're about to get started on our weekly podcast show. So he's going to be here, be our guest today, but I always like to start off the YouTube live a little bit just to say hi and make sure that the YouTube has plenty of time to broadcast out to the masses and to the public that we're getting started. So we have about a minute left. So we might as well kind of make sure that if you are joining us live, you can kind of like point out and see, if there's anything we need to adjust physically, or
Yes.
is my makeup on right, or what? Okay. But I finally got an extension so I can actually put the camera here so it's not so blown out. For those of us who have seen the previous weeks, the camera was in a bad position where it made us like talking shadows, and all you could see was what was going on outside. But that being said, as usual, once the show starts, we are going to go through our little musical thing here, and now you can kind of see this, from the YouTube video, you can kind of see what I'm doing. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of eerie. I'm seeing myself doing stuff.
All right.
So we're gonna get started. So sit tight for a little bit, and we're gonna fire this up. And let me make sure that I have all my stuff together here. All right, that'll work. Okay. Cool. Quiet on set. Kayla, you're too loud. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to the Money Lab Live Podcast, episode number 43, How to Make the Leap into Entrepreneurship. All right, welcome back. To another live broadcast of the Money Lab podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I am your host, Wei Hong. And this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to re-engineer bad money stories and habits so that you can create a prosperous and an abundant lifestyle free of financial stress and worry. We also talk a lot about entrepreneurship, as you're going to find out in the show today. It's going to be a little bit of a different spin. Now, if you haven't downloaded our free ebook, From Money Anxiety to Six-Figure Mastery, make sure you go to http:// Do people even talk about that anymore?
No, they don't do that whole
So just
anymore.
assume that. It's like go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on the show. And quite frankly, it could change your life. Now, if you are joining us live today, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app, search for the hashtag the Money Lab, so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions and interact with us and our guest today. Now, while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and can catch us every week. For all of the ways to find us, go to thesixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. Wow. So hopefully you guys had a great Christmas. I got to make sure I turn to the camera, because otherwise I'm talking. YouTube viewers will actually be just watching the back of my head when I do this, because I stare at the screen. It was a kind of an interesting. Well, you know what? Since I don't have a co-host to kind of banter with, why don't I banter with my guest? Okay, so my buddy here, Bruce Languren.
Languren, yes.
Might as well be Bruce Lee, because I think you're pretty cool like that.
Thank you.
I've known you for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And before we get into kind of our history and everything, because we'll get into that, I just want to say, hey, happy birthday again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have a Christmas baby on our show today, and I'm surprised at how many Christmas babies there are out there.
There are plenty out there, yeah.
I think it's because of the whole spring, get it on in the springtime, clear
There's
things
love
out.
in the air, yeah. somewhere in spring, they're feeling it. Yeah.
And then people say, oh, you're going to have a Christmas. I was like, force it. Come out on Christmas Day. Be a Christmas baby. Very special. So you get like double gifts, or do you get only one? It's kind of like a double-edged sword in that growing up, huh?
It depends, really. Sometimes it, especially when it comes down to money. Funny enough, I'll get $10. They'll say 5 is for your birthday and 5 is for Christmas. And
literally, so here's a coal. Half the coal is for you.
Exactly. I get that breakdown very, very quick off the bat. So
yeah,
it's not always glamorous, but you know, the gift is of the one that matters, right? It's actually that,
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting because my sister's birthday is on the 11th. And so sometimes, you know, over the years, there have been times we've gotten a little bit lazy as family and said, you know, I don't want to go twice shopping. Let me just get one big present for you. And this will cover your birthday.
Somehow, if the present is above $100, it sort of justifies that it's only one.
Right.
They'll say, well, you know, it's $100.
It's $100,
yeah, it's $100,
right?
Yeah.
It's a car.
It's a car.
Half, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay. So just to give you guys a little background about Bruce here, is that Bruce and I were talking. Bruce and I we've known each other for,
I want to say 15 years almost.
Oh my God. Is it 15 years?
Close enough.
You knew me before Kayla.
Probably, I think so.
Because Kayla's 10.
You were just about to get her, or you were thinking about getting a dog. I remember that.
Okay, so that was like 11, 12 years ago. So I had, so it's over 10 years. Had to be 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how I know you is from volleyball. That's where we first met. And then from there, it blossomed into so much more.
Well, going into volleyball, we sort of tend to just stay in that level.
Right.
And then off the court, when we actually do get to discuss and talk about each other and then get to know each other, we realize how much passion we have about life.
Right.
You indeed went to business, and I've gone into other
types of business. And we're going to talk about that today and talk about how and really kind of position you to be the next inspiration for entrepreneurs, because I'm really excited about having you share about your journey into eventually making that leap into entrepreneurship, right? Just so you guys know, Bruce and I, we rarely played on the same team. We were always playing across the net from each other.
We were, yeah.
And oftentimes we played the same position, which was middle.
It was. Back in my youth, actually.
Back in the day when I could actually jump and get off the ground,
yes.
We would always have these little healthy battles and exchange of words across the net. I mean, we weren't swearing at each other. We're not like, you know, pro level, but we're just like talking fun smack to each other. It's like, dang it, I hate you.
It was motivating. Yeah, it was motivating smack. Yeah. So
yeah, motivating smack.
Yeah.
I think that's a good hashtag there. Okay. For those of you who are listening to this, motivating smack. Okay. So just in case that you guys don't know how this all works, if you are joining us on YouTube live Hangouts and you're seeing us via the camera, which I'm pointing at, for those of you who are on speaker, you can't see me do that, but I'm pointing at the camera. And those of you on YouTube, I'm pointing at you. Yes, I'm talking to you. You can actually join on the conversation by going to the group chat of the YouTube live Hangouts. Now, don't worry, if you're not on YouTube Live Hangouts and you're on Spreaker.com on the phone or on the web, there is a chat module there too that you can ask questions, because for those of you who are thinking about entrepreneurship or know you have that spirit in you and wanting to make that leap, we're going to go deep into that today and really just have this open discussion about it, because Bruce has some cool things to share. Because for most of your life, Bruce, you've been you work jobs like working for other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I know over the years when we talk, you've always had this fire, this spirit for entrepreneurship. You have this mindset and this perspective about that, right?
Yes.
So would you say, this is kind of a cool segue into your money story, would you say your money story had an impact on why you never made that leap before as opposed to today?
Right. A lot of it, I felt, had to do with the mentality behind what I felt money was. So before, and I had listened to you before as well in your podcast, saying how money was told to me that it was the root of all evil, right? It's something that.
So you were one of those.
I was told this.
So let's talk about your money story. So
Yeah,
let's talk about that money story. What was your money story growing up?
It was that there was an accumulation that you got to, and then you stopped, because above that, then evil just came into your life, and you were just, you know.
So what was that level? What was that level? Do you remember?
It was anywhere. At that time, I think it was like, especially early 2000s, it was somewhere, if I made over $4,000 a month, it was too much. It was just one of those places where if
so
you
about
had
50,000 a year,
roughly.
Any more than 50,000 a year, then you're evil.
Then you're pretty much evil, right? When I was told,
and that was a real mental state of mind for you growing up.
It was, because I remember even in jobs, you know, I would do a good job and someone would say, well, I'm gonna give you, we're going to pay you more, and not say yes. And then there was this sort of inertia afterwards that came out like, okay, well, I can't make too much, so don't work too hard. It's
was that literally the chatter that was going through my mind? I can't make too much.
It was an automatic. Yeah, it was
Oh my
automatic.
God.
It was up until when someone mentioned to me sort of a defined what the money is thing.
Right.
And they told me money is simply a unit of choices. The more units you have, the more choices you have. And that's essentially removing
unit of choices.
Yeah, it was just removing the stigma of having it to be evil, because of course, if I have the units, then I would be able to go ahead and acquire, or just choose to go to movies, go to a location I've never been to before, and help other people.
Right.
It was a choice that I get. Now, at the same time, that set in responsibility to me, because now I actually get to have a unit and make a choice, a responsible choice.
So that's interesting, because when did you become aware? Because obviously most of it was unconscious. I mean, it was just kind of a visceral thing that showed up. I was like, no. And you started making unconscious decisions to make sure that you stay under that radar, so to speak.
Right. It became apparent up until the point where the automatic set in as I became, or someone gave me more responsibility, because I felt that I had to fit into a mold that was meant to be showcased. So in other words, if I had this amount of money, then I had to act a certain way. And if I'm not that certain way, then fear set in. And so then it was a sort of this self-sabotage that came through.
Oh, okay. So if you were making more than 50,000, you needed to be something that you're not. I mean, almost, I mean, to that point, because you almost have to change your way of being. Like, you have to change to match what the belief system was.
Right.
Where did you think that you got that story from? Where did you learn that story from?
Well, the simple way of describing that would be my parents. I mean, so going into backgrounds, my mom and dad came from Mexico. My mom has a 3rd grade education. My dad has, I think, 8th or 9th grade education.
Okay.
And their background was, you work hard in order to sustain, in order to survive. That was a major key. You're surviving.
So basically, money was for survival. Okay.
And if anything above survival became self-indulgent. And so at that point, is if you're self-indulgent, then you become evil. That's where the evil.
When was the last time your parents went out and had fun and just self-indulged on stuff?
Well, funny enough, yesterday.
Oh, yeah, you were just telling me that.
Right,
yeah,
I was. Yeah,
was that the first time you've seen that, like, ever? Or
I've seen. You know what? I think it was that I can vividly remember. I mean, I've seen my father and mother have fun,
right?
But indulging, I think seeing my mom yesterday was probably one of the great. I mean, it's the great gift. Just seeing her, okay, yeah, let's get this, and it was a choice.
So go into more detail, because I would love to hear about how she indulged herself for the very first time in her life.
So we go into OC Fair. We went into the fairgrounds for Winter Fest.
Okay.
And so we're there, and immediately there's a lot of food, there's pictures you can take, there's rides, there's games you could play. And at some point, I could see mom calculating, okay, if I spend some here, if I spend some there.
Sounds like my mom. Like, everybody that previous generation is like,
exactly. They're sort of in the back of their mind, they're counting with their fingers, like, okay, if I spend $6 here,
Or in my mom's case, abacus.
Oh, exactly.
Pulls out portable abacus,
That's hilarious. And but so then I have my group of friends as well. So my family came along with me, and so a group of friends that I consider family, very close friends, came with me. And then they just immediately went to go get food and to get some drinks. And they came back and they were laughing, and you could tell that it just kind of clicks for her. It just, oh, I get to do this. It's not I have to have fun.
Right.
I get to do this.
Yeah.
So she actually went out, got a drink, and she got a hot dog. And then after that, she goes, let's go play some games. I said, great. Okay. So we go and play some games. We go shoot at some ducks and, this kind of thing. And then she goes, oh, let's go into this right now. Do you want to go in this right? So I could see her with her and my aunt just getting into this mode of just, oh, we get to enjoy this.
This is what money can actually give us,
and
allow us to enjoy time with family and everything like that. So that's so cool seeing that. I'd be interested in hearing more about how she then takes that and keeps going with that for the rest of her life, because it could make the next 10, 15, 20 years of her life absolutely just amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, because her kids are making money, probably making more money than you know. We have to be an improvement over our parents at some point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And so getting that piece handled on your end, and then starting to having her see that and be able to embrace that with you. Now, you know, the teacher becomes student, student becomes teacher.
Right? That recycling mentality, I really enjoy, and especially now when we came back. We go back to my friend's house, and he has this mandarin tree at the back.
Okay.
And so we're picking fruit, and then as she's going out, she goes, you know, I could sell these to the corner store. Because we got about 4 boxes. I mean, that's fruitful.
I could sell these, and will they buy it? It's local.
It is. It's local. It's fresh. I mean, we live in the ghetto, but we can still sell a lot of great food, and especially with fruit. And so she's already, her mind started going already, because she said, well, if I get to do this, and I get to do, because she's gonna go to the casino with her boyfriend, for New Year's. So she said, if I sell this and make about $50, then I have $50 to go to this casino and have some fun. You see? So she's already sort of planning these kind of things. Right. And I'm loving this. I'm like, great, mom. Do this.
Go be happy. Yeah. Right.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah. Speaking of selling, I mean, you're right. This coffee is good.
It's delicious.
I know. Really for those of you who don't know, we've just brought a new French press into our office, and I just made some French press just as Bruce arrived today. And
yeah.
That's some good coffee.
It really is.
We're self-indulging in ourselves. So very cool. So at what point did that awareness pop up and say, wait a minute, this is a weird, funky story. This is a weird, funky reaction. Why am I feeling this way, doing this? And when did you start noticing there was a pattern? Was there a pattern that started to show up?
There was. The immediate pattern that showed was the not being able to be part of events or part of moments, really. You know, especially now with social media, you get to see everything gets thrown in your face about I'm in Iceland, I'm in Las Vegas, I'm doing something. Speaking right?
Iceland.
Exactly. And so there seems to be this sort of feeling of being left out. And I realized that it wasn't so much
FOMO.
Yeah. It was. But in a sense, it wasn't so much about just the area that they were in, but just creating those moments, really.
Yeah.
And I realized that the more I sort of gravitated towards the mediocrity of having that mentality, I was not necessarily missing out on the opportunity of being somewhere, but just creating moments that actually live in your memories and live in your heart.
Right.
That was the pattern that I realized real quick.
So you weren't so much in the present. You were like thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and you completely missed what was going on in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So being able to own the responsibility of saying, okay, well, I do get to make this amount of money or more, or actually project out into the universe or wherever that this is something that I really want to get.
Right.
Then I started to acquire a certain level of success.
Right.
And that's when it became very apparent that money is not going to necessarily be the end all of it, but essentially is going to give me the opportunity to create a choice and then create moments in my life that I want to have.
Yeah. Units of choice. I like that. I really like that. I'm surprised that we never talked about that, but hey, thanks for introducing it on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to introduce it to the whole entire community. So for those of you who are listening or listening afterwards, or the case may be, take this down, write it down. Money is our units of choice. And I absolutely agree. I mean, the more money you have, the more choices you have. And if you are coming from a good place, good heart, good intention, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being well-funded to create more, or to spread your intention to your family, your community, your city, your planet.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, so let's talk about so when did you realize that you would at some point want to be an entrepreneur? Because here's where we start going into what we call the title of the show today was how to make the leap into entrepreneurship. Because I think you could probably relate, and you probably from just people, just, you know, you can't help but birds of a feather flock together. It's like, I'm sure you know a lot of people who talked about being entrepreneurs and wanting to make that, and for years they talk about it and they never make that leap. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just that, you know, we're not raised or not bred or not educated to make that an easy step. I mean, that is
very true. You
know, fortunately for me, I'm crazy fearless, and, you know, I don't care if I die in the process, and I'll just do it. And that's kind of like my client. Oh my God, you know, that's why it all explains my journey too. It's a lot of anyway, that's a whole separate story. But
I like to hear that.
When did you realize that, you know what, or start to thinking about, I think I want to be an entrepreneur at some point in my life?
It started for me. It was early 2000s, roughly about 2002 or something.
So after you grew up, it didn't occur to you to think of that way until you grew up to.
Yeah, I was sort of fresh out of high school, and
wait, you were fresh out of high school in 2000?
Well, I graduated 2000.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
Oh.
Sorry, wait. I have more white hair than you, though. So it's okay.
That's because I shave everything off. Nobody can tell.
I probably should try that. Yeah, I realized that there was well, back then it was just I gotta make something for myself. I want to create something where I'm able to attract my worth.
Okay.
And so I
attract my worth. Is that what you said?
Attract my worth. So at that stage of my life, I thought, well, I'm worth $1 million at least. And so but I wasn't creating $1 million worth of content or $1 million worth of product. It was just the idea behind it. And I realized that going into entrepreneurship meant that there was a level of responsibility that I get to take. And by that, I mean that I was able to then give back not only a service or a product, but something substantial that people can take with them. So creating that content or that product or service really founded me in who I am. So going into what am I going to give, the feedback that I get in terms of money is really going to set into what the value that I actually give myself. Do I really hold myself up that high?
Right.
And so early on, I went into MLM. And I realized that this is one of the greatest ways of going about creating an environment of entrepreneurship, because it gets you deep dive into the mentality of being able to create your own resources.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what MLM is, it's a multi-level marketing, network marketing, direct sales marketing. I think the poster child of that was Amway. I think they started, they were the first most successful MLM network marketing. Robert Kiyosaki supports it. All these major, it's designed to help anybody. And at the same time, it's not for everybody.
Right.
And I think what's so cool about MLM, it's a great stepping stone. From someone who has spent their entire lives thinking they needed to be an employee and stepping into a comfortable enough structure so that they can experience what it's like to be an entrepreneur to see if it's really for them or not.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's so yeah, go on. So just to help people understand what MLM stands for.
Great description, because at the same time, when you're diving into that, there's not a formal education behind it. It's really, you're diving into the lion's den and experiencing every single crack and cranny of what entrepreneurship is, because
being responsible for your actions without, and have it directly correlate to how much money you're actually bringing in. Right?
Exactly. There's an accelerated learning behind it. And as you mentioned, it's not meant for everybody. But however, if you remove and take away the lessons and teachings from it, then apply it into something that you want to do and open up your restaurant or open up or create an app, whatever it is that you want to do.
Or even become a better employee.
Exactly.
I bet you there are people who tried, my dad tried entrepreneurship. He was like, it's not for me. He went back and he became an even better employee, taking that same mindset and actually accelerating his value in any corporation. So now he's like this highly sought after independent contractor. He's retired, but he can't stop working. But he's highly sought after, and they don't want to let him go. And he's an independent.
Yes.
And I think that's what I was hearing as you were saying that is that that's such a cool thing to let people realize that when you're an employee, you can get lazy.
Yes.
But then so can your growth.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely true.
Right. So people who just like, I'm just clocking in and get my paycheck. Great. Be prepared that's the rate you're going to get for a very long time.
Exactly.
But you can take that. I think people. So you went to MLM and you went back. Did it impact how you actually approached jobs moving forward?
Indeed. Yeah. As I went back into the workforce, excuse me, I realized that there was and I think Tony Robbins put it beautifully. I realized that I was I was resourceful. A lot of times I try to find a way of doing things or waiting for the time to happen. And I realized that when I went back to it, I could create my results. And by that, I mean that I was able to create opportunities where I'm able to either showcase a good project or finish a project, and then be able to then spread it out throughout the company and say, hey, this is probably a new standard that we can take, and this is going to bring the value up of whatever product or service that we have.
Right.
But it was that rigor that actually I learned from MLM that came into my workforce or work that showcased very, 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 very vividly.
Okay.
So it helped me out to sort of found myself in a way where I can display not only my skills, but also set a value for myself. It really does stem from where it is that you are in certain states of being that you're in. And if you're not in that confidence level or in that confident state, then pretty much what you're doing is just mechanical.
I think that's a good point there. That word confidence is really kind of the key. I mean, I think whether an entrepreneur or not, how you progress and grow in life. I mean, I was just thinking about this this morning. I mean, it's like there are coaches out there, there are practitioners out there that all they focus on is helping people tap into their confidence. I mean, bring out the confidence and unleash that. I mean, my previous coach, I mean, she was adept at that. I mean, that was her thing. That was her main thing. I don't know if she recognized it or not, but she helped give people the confidence that they needed to go after what they wanted. Right. So from early 2000, basically, you got bit by the entrepreneurial bug and you started to seek, started to look for. Here it is, 17 years later. You've probably gone through different kinds of jobs and positions and everything like that. And now you've started going into developing an app, right? And making that leap finally, right? Taking the steps to going there. What would you say? Because this is a very it's not an uncommon path from someone to go to, not like me. It's like come out kind of a high school, go to college. Like, hey, entrepreneur, start a business, fail. Oh, get up, start a business, fail again. But taking this approach to be to making that, finally anticipate making that leap in the next year or two, probably, right?
Yes.
What is it that you think had kept you from actually making that leap earlier? Was it, I'm not confident enough, or I just don't know what I'm going to do, or am I still battling my demons of what I grew up with in terms of, is this okay for me is it evil for me to go be an entrepreneur?
Right.
What was going through that whole process? I mean, I'm sure there was a lot, but over the last 10, 15 years.
I'll tell you, we especially with NLP, we had talking that kind of language. I had a lot of baggage, and now in terms of baggage, there was a lot of my upbringing and how I was brought in, the belief structure that I had.
So they call it limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs. It's they're pretty much sustained in my body and in my mind and in my heart. And so then the leap and sort of the breakthrough that came through was being able to acknowledge first, own where I was, and shift. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we get to go through as we're going through our process, we end up getting into this mode of, I need to be this. I want to be this. And we don't realize that sometimes we're just depressed, we're just sad, or we're just stuck. And I didn't own that. I was no. I'm not. I'm doing this. Is like the moment that I actually
give my affirmations.
Exactly. The moment I just stopped, I paused. I said, okay, this is where I am. I have the job and I'm working this many hours, and this is how much I'm making. This is how I feel about it. And I acknowledged that.
When did that happen?
This started setting in freaking years. 2013.
Okay, so only for like 3-4 years ago.
Right. And that's where sort of center balance started coming around. Right.
Got it.
And so and so I realized, okay, this is where I'm gonna own this. This is how I feel. Good. Take that in. And I was able to sort of separate that from that state of being, and then going into like, okay, well, what does work? What is efficient? Efficient would be for me to actually be in a state of progression, state of energy, state of acknowledging and receiving. Because a lot of times I would get feedback, but because I was so closed-minded and I was kind of having this
you had your baggage talk. I mean, it was like all in front of you, right? You were living your life through the belief systems that you grew up with, and it would be scary to break away from that, because that's like breaking away from mom, break away from dad.
That's a very good point. I sort of realized that while I was in that state, I was very much in a comfort zone.
Right.
Because it felt good to get acknowledgement, like, oh no, it's okay. Oh, you work so hard.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, man, you're
and
so
mom
busy.
loves you.
Yeah, exactly.
And mom supports you. It's like, oh, I'm home again.
Exactly.
And it brings us back to our little childhood.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the womb again. It's cool.
Ego brings you back, and it was telling me, no, it's okay to stay here. And the moment I was able to say, no, this is what really is. It's just like taking a child and putting them there, saying, okay, this is where you're at. Time out, and then I get to do my thing.
So would you say like the whole sentiment, if you were to break away from all those belief systems that you grew up with about money and about entrepreneurship, about not doing something that nobody in your family knows about or has any experience around, that it would almost be like a free fall into life? It's like,
right,
what am I going to do?
Well, the removal part of those beliefs, though, is that sometimes because they are sort of founded in you, there's just like working out or something, you kind of get to train yourself into a new momentum.
Okay.
And so those conversations tend to come back anyways, because we're human. Right. So they tend to come back. So what ended up happening is that I realized that if I become aware of it and I realize that pattern and I actually acknowledge it, that's where I'm able to shift. Yeah. It's sort of like getting out of bed and realizing that you're going to hit that snooze button, but then you realize, oh, if I do, I'm going to spend another 20 minutes in bed. So if you stop that pattern, right? That's what I did.
But the first is recognizing that there is a pattern.
Yes, exactly.
Because most people don't even recognize that.
Exactly.
It's kind of like that Facebook Live I did last week called "Know Thyself, Know Thy Business." Right. And so people do it out of order. They try to get academically smart. They try to know about what they need to do. But it's like building an entire business or career on a house of cards, because, you know, I think I talked about it. It's kind of like when you do want to do it, to get on a boat and do a transatlantic type of trip. Yeah. Right. And I'm only talking because I want to give your throat a rest, because I know it's been anyway. So you get on the boat and you're traveling transatlantic, and then you said, this is the best time of the year to travel. I'm going to do this because that way I can have the best and safest travel. But this is transatlantic. You never know what's going to show up, you know, weather and Mother Nature and everything like that. But if you go on there without knowing where your lifeboats are, not knowing how to navigate and steer choppy waters, how to look at weather systems, and how to position the boat when a big wave comes, are you going to survive that trip? It's kind of scary.
It does.
But people go through their careers and open up businesses doing that because they don't take the time to find that level of awareness. Would you say that the last, 10, 15 years was really about this journey in understanding yourself and finding the patterns that were no longer serving you?
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a very good question too, because it comes down to a lot of times, as I was going through these awarenesses and patterns as well, I realized that I was labeling them as good, bad, or right or wrong.
Right. You were vilifying, or you were judging them. You're judging your own behaviors.
And for most of us, it becomes this: we are our worst critic, or best critic. It depends on
how you're criticizing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so
I'm so good. I suck. It's become this golem thing. It's like, that's what hates us. It's like, it's like playing with the fish. And anyway,
it does. Yeah. And the thing is that the moment I realized that it was the feedback is just to notice. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just to notice. The moment you're able to notice that when this happens, is it efficient or is it not efficient? And we leave it as that, or I leave it as that. Then it becomes very apparent of what works and what doesn't in my life. Because I'm not sure if you wake up in the mornings and work out. Yeah. What time do you wake up?
I typically wake up around 6:30, start doing my morning routine. Then I step out, usually go to work around 8:30. And then after I do my workout, I come back, I unwind, feed myself, clean up, and then center myself, and then start my day.
See, and that is beautiful. And then at the same time, given your level of success, if I put myself in those shoes and say, well, if I don't wake up at 6, I'm already doing it wrong, but it might not work for me. Right. So maybe I wake up at 7 and I don't do that extremity, but I get to do something aside that still works for me.
More flexibility, right? Adaptability. What is it called in our little world? Law of requisite variety.
Exactly.
He or she that's more adaptable and flexible controls the system.
Exactly.
Or in our particular, control our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If I'm looking at your world and saying I'm gonna adopt this and I'm not doing it right because I'm not doing it the way you're doing it, then I'm a failure. And then that's become.
And you're not me.
No, I'm not.
Totally different operating systems,
Yeah.
totally different vehicles, so to speak. It's like if you're like a crotch rocket motorcycle and I'm say like a Bugatti, right? We're gonna operate differently. We're gonna start differently. We're gonna run differently, and there's different circumstances that are ideal for us. I mean, you could carve out the mountain road. Well, some Bugatti too, maybe, but you can split lanes. Where I can't. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of times that's what I sort of started falling back and sort of backpedaling. When I became this, oh, I'm not doing what you're doing, so I'm doing it wrong, or it's not right.
It's Oh, you were comparing.
Yeah. And so a lot of times for me in my process of getting into my entrepreneurship was that, oh, well, I'm gonna get my app started, but I haven't even gotten my beta. Okay, I'm not doing it right. It's like just get it out there already.
Yeah.
At some point, you're gonna be able to find that perfection in that imperfection.
So let's talk about perfection, imperfection. I love that. I say that all the time. Where'd you get that? No. so let's talk about that. So center balance was probably the aside from the app thing, was probably one of the most recent entrepreneurial step or leap, right? So after the whole MLM trip, and that would have been the next big thing for you in terms of entrepreneurship, right? So what gave you the green light, internal green light to say, I'm gonna do this? Because this is where we start bringing it back to our listeners who are thinking, especially those who haven't made that leap yet, but really want it. They have a great idea, they have a great service, they have a great thing going on, and they say, I gotta make that leap. I gotta do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you've got golden handcuffs on or if you've got no money going on. That's irrelevant, right? And when it comes to your journey in entrepreneurship. So what prompted you to say, okay, I'm going to do this center back? Because I still remember when you actually made that leap with Terry and stuff like that.
You're one of my advisors, actually. Yeah. You were advising us a lot.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So what decided? Was it your idea? Or was it Terry's idea? Was it like a Terry, by the way, was Bruce's previous business partner. I mean, they still kind of work together, but what was it? Her idea? Your idea? I mean, how did you guys end up saying, let's do this? Let's open up a gym. Let's do center balance training.
So it was Terry's idea originally, and we had previously. Now Terry also plays volleyball with us, and so she amazing player, and so she
ADP qualifiers and all that kind of stuff.
So she came to me and she said, hey, I want to go ahead and start working with people and training them, especially in our stream of volleyball players that get knee injuries, shoulder injuries. She said, I want to go ahead and help them out. I said, fine. She told me that I think back in 2010 or 11, and then she said, well, I want to do it. I said, great, good luck. A year later, she came back. She said, I haven't started it yet, and I'm like, well, what do you want? So she gave me her vision, and I bought it. I said, okay, great. What do you need help? And I did web development prior to this. I'm like, oh, I can help you out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so I started raising some of the information, and especially even back in early 2010. I mean, there was already like stuff like Wix, and I mean things that were just easy to just post up. And especially nowadays, there's so many tools out there that you can use and start up. When you have YouTube channels, you have every available resource.
Did my other company make a website for you guys?
Yeah, you did also. You did our first website. Yeah, you did.
That's right.
Yeah, and
that was a long time ago.
It was a while. Yeah, and so I pretty much what triggered me was, okay, we have the resources, so now we can just do it now. And she already had the clientele, so I'll just work on the back end. So I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and dive into this. So I did. We started doing part-time. We then got a facility. And we then started marketing to people, and then it became more word of mouth than marketing because people were just loving how she was training. And then we started getting too big, so we got another facility. And the mentality for me then became just getting into the mode of actually taking responsibility of an entrepreneur. This is not like something that just like a job where you just go and everything functions. No, this now I was involved, and I love that level of responsibility. However, I just didn't know how. So I ended up kind of letting it kind of slip little by little. So that was one of the. Was
that the pattern that was running again because it was more money was coming in? The growth was happening. What do you think it was that because I mean at some point you guys were synergizing and you was like boom 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 things were growing. What was the lesson that you took away from that whole experience because now there's no facility?
No.
right? And well, she's taken a job over as a
Missouri.
coach in Missouri, right?
Mhm.
So what was the shift? What was the apex? I mean, was it just the life of that particular model, or was there something that shifted in terms of maybe, you know, a limiting belief came up, and then we activated a strategy to kind of change and shift the dynamic, because it could have kept going.
Mhm.
Sounded like
It did, yeah.
yeah.
I believe, and this is where I'll take responsibility. I believe it was essentially the not nurturing it the way a business should be nurtured. I developed,
Because for both of you, it's your first business for both of you, right?
I believe so, yeah. I think she had already been training on her own already, but having it to be marketed
full,
out, yeah,
right.
full, yeah, it was pretty much our first for both of us. And so I wasn't being as involved as I could, and I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't asking for support in areas. I remember I came back to you and asked you, and you would give us feedback as well too. But it wasn't a constant thing, because it's a constant learning curve, and so I realized that it was just sort of falling off, and it was just kind of trickling out. And of course, she started taking more clients, and then of course she started playing professional volleyball on the beach. And so she, we kind of started it started dissipating,
started letting it go.
Yeah,
other passions are taking over, and
exactly.
yeah.
So the focus wasn't so much on that anymore. Even though we still had clients, it wasn't. It just wasn't a focus.
Yeah.
So
interesting. So what do you think happened there in terms of, was the interest not there anymore, or was this just, do you think this was an exercise in, this is what we can do as from an entrepreneurial standpoint? I mean, if you were to look back now, because there's lessons probably embedded throughout the whole entire process, gemstones, it sounds like, and it may not necessarily be the right vehicle for both of you, right?
Right. Tapping into the passion of wanting to do any kind of business is essential. So I did this with her because she's one of my close friends. She's family to me, like a sister to me. And so I wanted to be in support. Right. And so I supported her. However, it wasn't entirely a passion of mine. Although I did enjoy and bought the vision, I didn't make it my own.
Oh, okay. So, that's right. So she sold you the vision, you bought into it, great. And it was more about you supporting her, but it also fed you from the entrepreneur standpoint. So, okay, cool. Let's play in this sandbox because it's an entrepreneur sandbox.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you play for that. And then basically it just lost steam because the passion wasn't enough to maintain that.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was that, and then of course, I mean, I was ignorance on fire. I was going in there just
ignorance on fire.
Yeah, because I wanted to own a business, and I wanted to be entrepreneur, and I just said, I'm just going to dive into this, and I really want to do this. However, it's just going to a soccer field, just running around without the ball. It was, I mean, it looks like I'm doing a lot, but I wasn't doing a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you say how important then is it to becoming an entrepreneur? Because it's a lot of work.
Yes.
You probably found out it's a lot of work to be an entrepreneur. How important then would you say is passion for what it is that you do, for the purpose of that business as an entrepreneur?
It's priority number one. If I'm not waking up in the morning saying, okay, I get to do this now,
right?
Then it's not gonna withhold the test of time.
Right.
It's gonna be a pastime.
Right.
And so
a hobby.
It's gonna be a hobby.
Right.
Right. And at some point it's gonna be dropped. And so if it is something that you just absolutely love, you're saying, I love creating flower decorations, then do that.
Yeah.
And that's because it's gonna give you not only the motivation, but most importantly, the imagination and creativity that comes along with it, because now you are creating. If within, this is what I found out for me as a lesson. If I'm not creating within my business, then I'm not really running a business.
Right.
Because then it's new content for you.
Right. So in essence, I mean, because contrary to popular belief, entrepreneurship is actually not easier than having a job.
No.
I just thought I'd disclose that to everybody. Oftentimes I go and speak in front of a group of entrepreneurs, and I will sometimes, depending on the group and the demographic, I'll step on stages. How many of you are entrepreneurs? Y'all crazy. Nobody in their right mind would become an entrepreneur, and let me tell you why. But despite that, how many of you have given up on being an entrepreneur? Okay, good. I'm still in the right room, because it is sometimes it is the most frustrating vocation and career, as you probably experienced in everything that you've done in Center Balance and everything.
Yeah.
Because so there, you're right. I think you're absolutely right that there needs to be something that drives us into taking this insane job of starting and running and just taking all that comes with it.
Yes.
Because there's not just the work involved, there's legal ramifications. There's we live in such a sue happy world that you actually have to take that into consideration. There's also the fact that you have to pay attention to every aspect of your business, at least in the beginning.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it'll suffer. And if you got two people who are passionate about taking care of doing the service, but not so much about the back end, then that becomes challenging too. So there's so many different variables as opposed to clocking in, do the best job that you can, get promoted, make a ton of money, have your health covered, health insurance covered,
right?
Have your 401k, contributed to and matched, and have your investment thing. Everything's all handled for you,
right?
That is so much easier. And not to try to dissuade people from becoming entrepreneurs, but have to, like you were saying, it's like passion needs to be number one. Why is it that you want to become an entrepreneur?
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So why for you would you say that you want to be an entrepreneur? So now you're doing an app thing. Okay. If you're not ready to share what that app's going to be about, let's talk about now what your timeline is for stepping into that and potentially going full time on that.
Yes. Well, the premise of it is essentially a gift app. So a manner in which to give gifts to friends, either for their birthdays, Christmas, especially during the holidays, anniversaries, whatever. It's essentially a gift. That's the premise of it. There's a twist to it that is going to make it unique. So the timeline that I have is, funny enough, you mentioned within about 1 to 2 years, just to make sure that I now have the back and the support to actually get this through, because the mistakes I made already are essentially going to be just destroyed. So make sure that by the time I get into this, it's full blown, because it is a passion of mine now.
Right.
And so it's within about a couple of years.
Okay. And how specific are you with your timeline right now in terms of, is it by quarter, or is this like an arbitrary 2 years? Or do you know specifically, are there milestones that are?
Well, funny enough, speaking about the leap into entrepreneurship, I have the arbitrary 2 years. That's essentially by 2019, it'll be done. And, early 2000, before 2020.
Right.
And so I don't have that time frame broken down yet. I have the idea laid out, and then that's about it, which is, that's where the leap comes in.
Now, and do you have and you already have the resources lined up? You got the people, your team, all the different people who are playing the different roles and everything?
I do. I have a team of developers already, 2 people that are designing. Okay. And in terms of funding, that's the next thing, to see how much this is going to be costing, backing up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So so why oh my God, it's already 12:46. Okay, so an hour goes along. So what I want to do right now is maybe have you talk about, if you were talking to somebody who's thinking about entrepreneurship or wanting to take a leap, because God knows there's so many people out there. Right. And here at the Six Figure Academy, and a lot of what I do is to help nurture and incubate and help people make that leap.
Yes.
What would you say are a few poignant things to pay attention to that maybe holding people back when they're ready to take the leap? I mean, I bet you there are people who have been sitting on ideas and concepts and want to be entrepreneur for like 20 years and they've never made that leap. Would you say 20 years is just way too long at that point? Then do something, right?
Yes. Yeah, my father was one of those. I have an idea. He invented, according to him, he invented Kit. You remember Kit Knight Rider? Yeah, he invented Kit before Kit came out. That was his story.
Well, I mean, that's totally plausible. I mean, if you think about all the major inventions, if you look at historically all the documents, any new invention at that same approximate time, right? You learned about this with Dr. Matt.
Yes.
Another part of the world, someone else invented it.
Yes.
Who's the better marketer? Whoever made it to market.
Exactly, right. Well, that's sort of been the lesson for me as I'm learning from my past with my parents, is that, sometimes just creating the idea in your mind and not putting it down it really just creates more of the procrastination, and it also creates that habit of creating procrastination. And so pretty much the awareness of, forget the awareness right now, but actually the just leaping into that idea and immersing yourself in that world. So whatever it case may be, you want to make mugs and find out how they're made, what they're doing. Is it really something that ignites you from within?
Right.
That's going to be the number one thing.
Because we live in a time right now where you can make money doing practically anything.
Yes.
Anything. Even more so than before. I always tell people all the time, so I can't make money doing that. It says, have you heard of the pet rock? The guy made millions off a rock. Exactly. Taking a rock from your garden and say, here's a pet. Sorry, kids, we can't afford a puppy, but here, have a rock.
Exactly.
Put a leash on that.
And he sold millions.
Millions. He made there was an old picture back in the 70s. He had a cash register, the old school cash register, said $2 million back in the 70s. And it's still selling today. The pet rock is still, you can go on Amazon, say pet rock, and it comes with a very fancy little carrying case and everything like that.
That is incredible.
But if we live in a world where someone can make millions selling a rock from your garden, maybe not your garden, but maybe his garden, right?
Right.
Then nobody has any excuse whatsoever about not being able to make money, the units of choice, right? For with the idea. You know, I spoke in Japan not too long ago, and the guy was like an atomic engineer. And he said, I don't think I have anything that anybody want to spend money or buy, or I have an idea. I was like, are you kidding me? And so I pulled the room and everybody's like laughing. It's like, and he goes, oh. But he was so stuck in his own little world that he didn't even see that nobody else thinks that in the room. He was still just kind of like wanting to defend his belief system, what he grew up with and everything.
Isn't that amazing how we would sometimes die for our own?
Well, yeah. You know, sacrifice and martyr your life, of which you could have had the opportunity to do other things. I mean, we only live once, really, you know, in this physical body anyway.
Well, and that's the thing too, when it comes down to taking that leap, is a lot of times for me, it was the labeling of whether this is right or wrong. Is it the good timing? Is it the best timing?
It's whatever it is. You create the time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So let me ask you this. So if you were to talk to somebody who was debating whether or not to become an entrepreneur, you know, and some people just aren't designed to be entrepreneur. I know people in my life who literally have gone through our technology and have acknowledged the fact that, I'll never be an entrepreneur. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I absolutely love what it is that I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. Great. So what would you say would be a great way to kind of check in with yourself? You know, if you've been, because, you know, having to kind of like waffle back and forth for years, that's draining. That's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Do I entrepreneur? Do I make the leap or not? Did I make the leap or not? What would you say would be a great way for them to check in, you know, because you probably have done this, check in with themselves as, is this truly what I want to do? Do I really want to be an entrepreneur?
That is a very, very good question. And it really, for me, it was this sitting down and going, what do I want? And then repeating that over and over again. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want?
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. No. You know, if you're not worried about people thinking you're crazy, talking to yourself over and over again. Yeah. That's totally fine.
Keep asking yourself that same question. What do you want? What do you want?
And then journal it, right?
Yeah. Journal it. Because at some point today might be different for tomorrow.
Right.
And if within that, what you want does not come out, I want to have a business, then don't go back to your job.
Right.
And it's fine. It's really just, what is it that you really want? What are you willing to do? Taking that responsibility of you, not necessarily taking the responsibility of what the image of you is.
Right.
Because a lot of times we feel like, no, well, I'm successful. I make, you know, so much money at work.
Right.
Great. Good. Is that what you want?
Is that what you define as success?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's really poignant right there. It's really important that if someone says no, I mean, it must be such a relief to finally decide and pick one. It's like a seesaw. You know, at some point you're just like, be an entrepreneur or not. Make a choice. There's no judgment either way.
No.
And I tell people all the time, I've literally coached people who says, you know, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Actually, I don't. It's like, let's help you find a job instead. Let me coach you in that.
Yeah.
And finding joy in your job, which I've done. And the person is ecstatic.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want people to kind of stop vilifying themselves, you know, and think of that. And so if someone decides that, yes, I do want to be an entrepreneur, what would you say would be because you've taken the leap a couple times and you come back and now you've learning from all these different times you've done that.
Yeah.
what would you say would be something that will help them to confidently take that leap? Because so many people say, I'm on the edge. I can't take the leap. I can't take the leap. I can't take the leap. What would you say is something that they need to be kind of pay attention to as an awareness or to do to help make that leap?
Oh, that's a very good question. So in my fault, in my step backs that I've done, the thing that I consistently asked myself was, do I want to be here? So I'm here right now. I have this, and not monetary or tangible things. It's like, this is where I'm being an entrepreneur. I think what I feel was the biggest leap was not the actual entrepreneurship, but the person I get to become when I am an entrepreneur. So where I was in my job and getting these small business off the ground, I was not in a good place. But I realized that, well, I get to be compassionate. I get to be powerful. I get to be energetic, motivating, inspiring. I get to be all these things when I have my business. That's what got to me.
Right.
So am I happy where I am? Am I happy with who I am?
And is it also because you haven't been able to find it in any job that you've taken before?
No, the job becomes very automatic, and so it becomes mechanical. Entrepreneurship, I feel that it brings out you.
Right.
And if you're not the you that you want to be at that point, then you get to be somebody that you want to become.
So interesting. So what if someone at your job heard this and then I went to you and said, hey, I heard what you said on that, and I really would like to be able to bring that out of you within the constructs of our business. Is it okay to share where you work right now?
Yeah.
So you work at Beachbody, which is like the epitome of like entrepreneurship. It's like, come on, right? And it'd be curious as to how it's like within. But what if they said, I heard what you said, and I'd like to have you sit down. Let's have a conversation about how we can have you, blossom in the biggest way possible within the constructs of Beachbody.
Yes.
Would you be open to that conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's more than, so the entrepreneurship is just basically a more tangible, feasible like solution to what you're seeking.
Yes.
Whereas, if you had a good manager or boss that was actually aware of that, not to say that there's anything wrong with your boss, but if they identified and they saw that and and you communicated that to them and they did steps to kind of enhance that,
yes,
that would actually, so it's not so much just about the entrepreneurship, but it's about being a master of creating the type of career or lifestyle that you want while you're making money.
Exactly. Which is why when in your business or my business, if I'm not creating, if I'm not using imagination, then I don't have a business. There's a creation part of it that goes along with it.
And that's why I like to say that, it's not so much about being an entrepreneur, but, that entrepreneur-minded individual, that person, because you don't have to have a business to be an entrepreneur. You could have a business within a business. You can create your own little team inside.
That's true.
Beachbody, which is all about that anyway. So,
exactly.
So it's kind of funny, but it's really interesting. But just being in Beachbody alone, you probably see all the materials, all the content, all the language. It's just osmosis alone. That totally feeds your entrepreneur spirit, I'm sure.
It does. Yeah. Being able to see, so I work in the back end part of it, and Beachbody has an MLM side to it. And being able to tap into that mentality with different people, making themselves the pinnacle of their own business, is beautiful. And at the same time, I'm able to sort of extract that information and use it in my day-to-day life.
Yeah. By the way, because the MLM switched to the MLM model, actually say Beachbody, because they were not doing well prior to that. I mean, they were doing okay, but it just wasn't the same. And then when they switched to that model, things just took off.
It did.
Because I mean, it just works so much better for what they're offering. My buddy is that I actually used to teach Kung Fu with is Tai Cheng.
Tai Cheng.
Yeah. Mark. Shout out to Mark. No, he probably will never hear this, but it's okay.
He might. I'll let him know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you see him every once in a while?
Not as much as I would want to. Okay. Yeah. They normally, the trainers come in every so often. Okay. So you might,
I'll tell him I said, hey, next time you see him, because we've got some serious history at UCLA. So, all right, very cool. We got about 3 minutes left. There's probably a ton of people that will probably feel more comfortable reaching out and talking to you versus like say me or us, because especially if they're like just thinking about entrepreneurship or struggling with that piece. Yes. What would be a best way for people to reach out to you? I mean, or is there anything specific you like to share with the audience that could help them, with that process?
Well, funny enough, is this something you discuss as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Well, things like this, like NLP, and currently I'm going through MITT's
Uh-huh.
another type of transformational course.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Anytime you get the opportunity to go ahead and tap into yourself
Right.
and being able to see what else you can actually create from yourself and
Mhm.
be a source of whatever you want
Get
to
to know
manifest.
thyself.
Exactly. I would say take full advantage of that, because opportunities tend to come in a very odd way, and sometimes we tend to pass them by.
Yeah.
And it's funny, one of my mentors told me once, opportunities are never lost, they're just passed on.
Yep.
And so times like this is where I would say take full advantage of things like, is it Human Up?
Yeah, Human Up. Oh
Human
yeah,
Up.
the new company that we launched.
Yep.
Yeah.
Human Up, NLP, MITT, and take full advantage of where you can actually go into, where places that you never even thought you would ever go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys still also maintain that centerbalancedtraining.com website.
Yes.
So they can still, so people who want to find you, they can find you through there.
Yeah. Centerbalance.com. Should I give out my email?
Centerbalancedtraining.com.
Yep.
If you want to, yeah, if you want to share the email, I'm going to post everything in the comments and everything like that. And that way you guys can reach out and connect with Bruce. Centerbalancedtraining.com is the website. MITtraining.com is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Of course, Human Up, which is us, but that's when it's not about us today. It's about you. Yeah, reach out to Bruce if you have any questions. I know sometimes talking to somebody like me who has been working with, like years of working with like entrepreneurs and everything may be intimidating at times, but you talk to somebody who's kind of like sort of on the same boat, but has taken a few steps forward, like Bruce, might be a better conversation to start with. And so reach out to him at centerbalancedtraining.com. We'll also post his email because he's so generous in sharing that. And then all the other links that he's talked about. But I have a feeling we'll probably have you back on the show as you get closer to doing more with your app.
Absolutely.
Want to be supportive of that too. Totally appreciate you not sharing the unique twist, because until you get that stuff out there, you don't want someone else taking that who has So looking forward to hearing more about the unique twist on that, and then having you back on the show. So again, go to centerbalancedtraining.com, MITtraining.com. Thank you, Bruce, so much for coming in day after your birthday, day after Christmas. But I think what you shared is so valuable, and then the perspective is something that I couldn't even do. I mean, because of your background, what you grew up with, and some of the true experiences. When we talk about all the time, people saying, "Oh, money is evil." Well, whatever. But you literally lived that growing up and seeing that being viscerally like taught to you on so many different levels.
Yeah,
such a cool thing, such a cool gem. So for those of you who are have been listening to this, I hope you took some notes. I hope you got some gems. And if you wanted to get connected with Bruce more, just check out the links below, and then you will be able to, reach out to him and talk to him.
absolutely.
Yeah. Other than that, I think next week is the new year already, right? So this is the last show. You got to be on the last show of 2017.
What a way to end it. Thank you.
I know, right? And so have a safe and phenomenal New Year's, everybody. And then join us next year for our next show and our next episode. Hopefully it's somebody that we know.
Yes.
All right.
Indeed.
Peace out.
Thank you.
See ya. All right. I didn't hit stop for some reason. Bye.
Bye, guys.